Depending on the climate you live in, some vegetables grow better than others. I live in the Netherlands in Zone 8, which is a fairly mild climate, but there are some periods, of course, like winter, where you can barely grow anything. Hey, my name is Jair, and today I'm going to talk about how you can shorten that period of low produce by making a hotbed. Not being able to grow anything in winter is of course nothing new. Yes, there can be some kale and Brussels sprouts still growing in your garden, but especially at the end of winter and the beginning of spring there will be little left to eat from the garden while the new season hasn't really started yet. This period is also known as the hungry gap, and back in the day, unless you had food stockpiled, it lived up to its name. Of course, in modern time, this is not really a problem with supermarkets and whatnot, but if you are living a little bit more of a self-sustaining life, overcoming this hungry gap period might actually prove to be a challenge. Now, people understood this even way back in the times of the Romans and the Egyptians. And even back then, much like now, they had a strong bond with horses. So when they were cleaning out the stables and heaping up the horse manure during winter, they noticed that those piles became hot and started steaming because the horse manure was starting to compost. By putting soil on those heaps, it would become warm enough so that they could plant the first crops of the year a few weeks earlier than normal. And so, the first hotbed was essentially born. A hotbed functions much like a greenhouse with a heat map. So, simply said, you take an enclosure, like a grow bed, and then you traditionally fill that up with horse manure. On top of that, you put your compost or your potting soil that you want to grow your plants in. And finally, you're going to top the enclosure off with something transparent, such as glass panels or plastic. This traps the heat inside while also letting sunlight in and keeping excessive rain out. As the manure starts to compost, it will generate heat and it will warm up the soil that you placed above it. This will allow for crops to grow in a warmer environment compared to the outside temperatures. And that means that you can start your growing season a lot earlier, potentially even in January. While horse manure is often used to create a hotbed, it is by no means the only medium that you can use. Any type of manure can actually be used, so long as it's fresh and that you fill the hotbed up with it in one go. If the manure is not fresh enough, or you fill up the grow bed in small quantities at a time, it will not start to compost and so it will not generate any heat. In my case, I'm not using manure. I'm actually using freshly chipped wood. Now, these are the same wood chips that I use to create my pathways as well as fill up some of the new grow beds. Now, I'm not going to make an entirely new hotbed from scratch. I'm actually going to upgrade my cold frame. Now, if you want to know more about cold frames, then check out episode 4 on my channel. But in short, a cold frame is also an enclosure that you use to protect your young plants from harsh weather conditions while also trapping the light and the warmth of the sun inside. This allows for seedlings to grow outside while it's still a little bit too cold to plant them in full soil. So much like you would do on a warm windowsill. Now, I have to be honest, this is going to be a little bit of an experiment because the amount of wood chips that I'm using might not start a proper compost reaction. But then again, if it doesn't work, I won't lose anything because if this hotbed won't get hot, then I can still use it as a normal grow bed. Also, in a year or two, these wood chips will have broken down enough so that I can use them as compost in my grow bed. So it's a win-win situation for me. Because I hadn't really used the cold frame in a while, it had become weathered and overgrown. It was dirty and the vole had made its way even in here. So it was time to clean it out completely. I removed all the clutter and tiles and then I re-leveled the surface underneath. I placed down a third row of tiles so that the bottom of the hotbed would no longer be accessible from underneath. Then it became too dark, so I continued the next day to fill up the hotbed. It has rained tonight, so this pile of wood chips has been soaked to an extent. and it's already been composting. So when I shovel over here, then it's clear that there's steam coming off the pile, so that's a good sign. So I'm filling this bed up with the wood chips, and the whole idea of a hot bed is essentially to get a compost reaction going. And like I explained in my very first video, in order to do that you need 4 things. You'll need your brown or your carbon-rich material, which is in this case the wood chips. You'll need your green or your nitrogen-rich material, which is in this case, for example, the shredded leaves that are in between. You need water and you need air. Now, carbon, I have enough of that, and probably enough of nitrogen as well, like I said, the leaves in between. But in order to kickstart this whole composting process a little bit more, hopefully, I'm going to add some cow manure pellets, and I'm going to sprinkle them on every layer of wood chips that I add, as well as adding some water onto the wood chips. It has been raining, so these wood chips are not like very dry. However, often you will see that a hotbed won't really start composting and start getting warm because all the materials are just too dry. And when people start watering them in, the whole process really starts kicking off. So I'm going to continue filling this bed up as much as I can, adding some pellets, adding some water, and then I'm also going to compress it all down by just standing and walking on top of it. Right, compressing time. Okay, so it's been a day since I filled up the entire bed with wood chips. Now I'm going to leave it for a few days like this, and hopefully the compost reaction will kick off by then. And in order to measure that, I need to buy a compost thermometer, since I don't have one yet. And then I can measure the temperature inside of the hotbed and see if it's actually working.
Several days later.
So what I have here is a compost thermometer of about 30 centimeters long. Right now the outside temperature is about 13 degrees Celsius. I'll put the Fahrenheit somewhere up here on the screen. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the thermometer on top of the wood chips and see what the temperature is, and after that I'm actually going to stick it all the way into the center and see what the temperature inside of the hotbed is right now. Yeah, at some point I'm going to replace these glass panels with something lighter, but for now this will have to do. So I'm going to put the thermometer in here, leave it for a minute or two, and then we'll check what the temperature is going to be. Okay, so the thermometer has been in here for a few minutes and it's reading about 23 degrees just on top of it, and I can actually feel it's pretty warm. There, I'm going to leave it there for again a minute or two, and then we'll check on it again. Okay, so the inside of the hotbed is reading close to 30 degrees Celsius, which is not that hot, but at least it's generating some heat. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to top off the wood chips with some of my own made compost and some potting soil, and then I can start sowing some seeds and plant some seedlings into the hotbed and see if it all works. Okay, so I have some iceberg lettuce seeds over here that I'm going to sow on this left side of the hotbed. And I also have some spinach seeds that I'm going to sow on the other side. So that's it, that's how I made my hotbed, and I am looking forward to see if it's going to function the way I intended it. If you liked the video, then please leave a like and subscribe. And if you're interested how I made the cold frame in the first place, then check out this video right over here.